Hey guys, Shadowz here, welcome back to another Gear 6 video. Today we're going to be discussing the campaign story narrative being teased by Marcus Fenix, including a Swarm Nexus special Hive and so much more in Gear 6. During the Gears 5 campaign, the Swarm invasion continues to spread across Sarah as Locust burial sites all over the planet begin to emerge, and the awakening crystallized Locusts start their attacks on the remaining humans. Both cities of the new COG, including Settlement 2 and New Ephyra, as well as the outsider outposts such as Rift 1 Village, come under siege as the Swarm continue their search for new leadership in the descendants of Queen Myrrah's family bloodline. After successfully launching additional Hammer of Dawn satellites from both the abandoned island of Azura to the sandy nomad territory of Vazgar, in a journey to discover the origins of the Locust and her connection to the Swarm enemy, Kait Diaz, accompanied by Del Walker, discover a secret COG facility buried underground inside Mount Kadar, where they come across a Niles Samson AI left in charge of where everything began. As Niles explains the efforts of his early work beginning in the Pendulum Wars at the New Hope Research Facility, which started with Niles being commissioned by Chairman Monroe to find a cure for the motion sickness known as rust lung, it very quickly turned into a living nightmare as children of the miners were injected with emotion and experimented on, resulting in the creation of these sires, being shut down by the COG and secretly transferred to Mount Kadar, where Niles would continue his work in creating the Locust hybrids. With Kait wanting to sever her link to the Locust and the Swarm Hivemind, Niles explained to Kait her family heritage and the origins of both Queen Myrrah and Reina Diaz, his creation of the Locust Horde and the Hivemind, which Kait's connection to was based on a DNA genetic algorithm inside her brain. Niles convinces Kait to enter his machine to connect directly to the matriarch in order to sever her link to the Locust, however instead successfully deceives her by using the power of the matriarch to send Kait Diaz's consciousness to a mother in a swarm hive, leading her to awaken Reina as the resurrected return of Myrrah in her daughter's body to become a queen of the swarm once again. After successfully chasing down Niles Samson, whose final demise was met by being torn in half by his first ever successful creation, Kait and Del were able to kill off the matriarch and managed to sever the amplifying original Locust, while Kait's temporal connection to the Hivemind remained intact. Reuniting with Marcus Fenix on board the King Raven helicopter, Kait confesses to Marcus about what she had just learned in Mount Kadar, about the Locust, the Swarm, her connection to the Hivemind, and the return of a Swarm Queen. With Delta Squad returning to New Ephyra and arriving at Damon Baird's laboratory to discuss the operation details for Baird's plan of using the Hammer of Dawn once again against the Swarm enemy, but by placing targeting beacons all across the old Ephyra ruins for remote activation in sync with all of the Hammer satellites working together. Now what's very interesting is that while the Gears 5 campaign story has already established at this moment that the activation of the Hammer of Dawn is the right plan to deal with the Swarm for now to end this game's story, Marcus Fenix, being the war-decorated soldier that he is, seems to be thinking ahead, and I do believe actually teases the main storyline and narrative plot of what the Gear 6 story will be about, and possibly the events for what's coming next in the Gear 6 campaign. Marcus Fenix goes into further detail by sharing and announcing to the group the following.
The Swarm have their queen. That means they've got a special hive somewhere. A Nexus. Someplace where they're vulnerable.
Okay, so how do we find it?
We don't. Because you might already know.
How would I know?
Look, I'm gonna level with you. While you were gone, Jin was raising holy hell about getting you hooked back up to the Hivemind.
I'm sorry, what?
Don't worry, I talked her out of it. But I need you to think about what you saw in that vision. Every detail. Is there anything that helps us?
No. I mean, I don't think so.
Just in case you missed it on your first ever playthrough of the Gears 5 campaign, because it is very subtle and surprising, I wanted to break it down and really go in depth explaining every part and sentence of what Marcus has just said, as I do believe this is huge foreshadowing right now, which the Gears of War series has always really liked to do, and Gears 5 could very well be potentially planting the seed right here and teasing the main storyline narrative plot of where the Gears of War story is going as we move into Gear 6. Firstly, to begin with, Marcus Fenix started off by revealing that the new Swarm enemy have a brand new leading Swarm Queen, confirming that war will be returning to the planet as the humans of Sarah once again will be fighting off against the survivors and evolution of the Locust Horde in the Swarm as humanity faces another extinction event in Gear 6. Continuing to make huge comparisons between the Locust and the Swarm, Marcus says the Swarm having a new queen means that they must have a special hive somewhere, a Nexus-like place where they're most vulnerable. As we know from the Gears of War 2 campaign, Nexus was the capital city of the Locust Horde, located near the center of the Inner Hollow, directly under Mount Kadar. Nexus included the Royal Palace, the Temple of the Trinity, Ukon's Lab, and was established as the source of the Locust civilization. The Swarm was birthed from the evolution of the Locust Horde and the Locust burial sites being transformed into Swarm hives, where every being and every hive was connected through a shared network. Marcus suggesting that the Swarm having a special hive that represents what Nexus meant for the Locust Horde must mean that the Swarm has a main central hive somewhere that represents the focal and leading hive of the entire Hivemind network, and that would make it the most vulnerable point ever of interest and the primary target for the COG in Gear 6. After Dale and Kait's confusion on how would the COG find and locate this main special Swarm hive, Marcus replies by stating that they don't, and that Kait may already know either what or where this Swarm special main hive may be, based upon her nightmares and visions that Kait had been experiencing all throughout the Gears 5 campaign. Ever since the events of the Gears of War 4 campaign, where Kait had disconnected Reyna from the Swarm Hivemind, she had begun being haunted by Queen Mira, with horrifying visions and nightmares in an attempt to compel her to join the Swarm. During Act 3 of the Gears 5 campaign, while Kait and Dell, joined by JD, Fuzz, Bed, and Paddock, were in Vazgard to fire additional Hammer of Dawn satellites left behind by the UIR during the end of the Pendulum Wars, Marcus and First Minister Jin had been in discussions about the possibility of having Kait hooked back up to the Hivemind, being the final living descendant of Queen Mira's bloodline, and the key to humanity ending the Swarm threat once and for all. Marcus sharing key details about what Kait had learned from Mount Kadar and her interaction with the Niall Samson bot 2.0, confirms that Jin and the COG are aware that the newly recruited outsider Kait Diaz is both one step away from being humanity's biggest ally to one step closer to being humanity's biggest enemy. Seeing as how at the very least Kait, Dale, Marcus, JD and Jin are aware of what Kait encountered in her trips to uncover the truth at Mount Kadar, I'm very interested to know whether or not, similar to the Locust symbol that was on the back of Reyna's outsider pendant, if Kait has maybe kept a couple of things to herself, such as Kait having so many gifts like controlling the Locust and the Swarm, to the Swarm Queen actually being the resurrection of Queen Mira in a new host body. Of course, it is going to be absolutely insane scenes when we get to see Marcus Fenix finding out that Queen Mira has been surviving for over 25 years inside the Hivemind and has returned for vengeance, continuing her original plan of wiping out humanity and dominating the planet in Gear 6. Lastly, Marcus finishes it off by sharing that he had talked to Jin out of the idea for now of having Kait hooked back up to the Hivemind, and that he needed her to think very hard indeed about every single little detail from her visions that could help out the new COG in fighting the Swarm in Gear 6. Kait Diaz experiences several visions and nightmares throughout the Gears 5 campaign, with most notably the cinematic intro to the game, which includes a very interesting insight into the effects of the emulsion countermeasure machine, killing off all of the lambent cells on Sarah, and how this affected the Locust Horde with the crystallization of their genetic DNA, inherited from Queen Mira, the Sires, and most importantly, the Riftworms. To then also the cinematic cutscene of the interaction between Kait Diaz and the Matriarch Berserker meeting for the very first time as their minds engage within the Hivemind network in an environment that looks like the Swarm hives that we've seen before. However, this time around a lot more lively, with the pods and the vines entangled everywhere as one with their surroundings. According to Marcus, he believes that these visions that Kait is having are the answer to figuring out what is next and what humanity must do in order to combat and strike back at the Swarm enemy and their new queen in Gear 6. Overall, to summarize my Gear 6 campaign theory of what I believe will be the mainline and narrative plot of the Gear 6 story, based on the teasers included in Marcus Fenix's speech in Baird's lab. In the Gear 6 story, War will return to planet Sarah as humanity, the Swarm, and the Locust battle it out for survival in the war to end all wars. The Swarm now having a leading queen, growing stronger and bigger than ever before with the awakening of the remaining Locust burial sites. Kait Diaz will agree to First Minister Jin's plan of Operation Infiltrate by reconnecting to the Swarm Hivemind to help the COG find and locate the main special Swarm Hive, which Kait would have seen in her nightmarish visions, and destroying it from within. In the final moment of the Gears 5 campaign, Marcus tells Kait that she'll be back, in reference to Swarm Queen Reyna wanting to hunt her down alive or dead, in which Kait responds, "But not if we find her first." further supporting my theory of the Gear 6 campaign story narrative plot being based upon Kait Diaz being the key and humanity eliminating the Swarm's main central special hive. Please make sure to leave me a comment down below telling me what you think. What is your guys' opinion on my Gear 6 campaign story theory? Do you agree with me? Are there any small details that maybe you would change? Or even if you do have your very own theory of what the Gear 6 story could be about, I would love to hear it from you in the comment section. I've been trying my best to continue the Gears of War content grind for you guys, both here on YouTube with consistent quality videos, to the daily Twitch live streams where I play with viewers and live stream Gears 5 daily over on my Twitch channel. Thank you guys so much for all of the support recently, especially on the last few Gears of War videos, and shout out to all of these Shadow Knight legends supporting the Gears streams. It is very, very inspiring and motivating for me to keep creating these super in-depth Gears videos. I hope you continue to keep enjoying and supporting. So there you have it guys, full details on the Gear 6 story theory with the campaign being teased by Marcus Fenix, including a special Swarm Hive and so much more in Gear 6. Leave a like on the video if you guys enjoyed it, subscribe if you already. Thank you guys for watching, and as always, I shall see you in the next one.